Hello, everybody. It is 10:57 a.m. Central Time on the 21st of January, 2021. It's Thursday here in the United States. Have breaking news for everybody. About 4.5 hours ago, a 7.0 earthquake struck. That's 6 a.m. my time, roughly. Over here in the West Pacific, a huge earthquake struck on the plate boundary right where Indonesia meets into Philippines. Philippines is to the north, Indonesia is to the south, and you'll see we have two letter Ds here. The letter Ds stand for deep earthquake locations, where we look for new deep earthquakes to take place. Over the past week, we've seen a flurry of deep earthquakes raised high off the globe, including deep fives. When a series of deep fours and fives happen in conjunction with one another, that's when I normally issue these large earthquake watches for 7.0 plus activity. It's been a fair amount of time since we've had any 7.0 range activity. We have to go back at least to last year, 2020. So, big earthquake struck here. Let me open up the plate boundary map and show you where it struck. Over here in the West Pacific, do you see the red lines here on the screen? Let me turn on a display capture. There we go. The red lines on the screen are plate boundaries between different plates. This is the Indo-Australian plate, for instance, and here's the Pacific plate. And right where the Pacific plate meets in at a triangular bend going into all the way to the west, you see it? That's where the mouth of the plate boundaries comes together. Now you'll also notice it comes back together on the coast of Japan. Furthermore, the plate boundaries go up to the north, up into Kamchatka, Russia, and additionally up into Siberia, Russia. Now on the north side of this letter H-shaped bend is where our other deep earthquakes were taking place. When I issued the warning 2 days ago, actually 3 days ago, we talked about watching between our sets of deep fives. Deep fives here, deep fives here, deep fives here. Furthermore, we can reduce down our areas that were hit to our halfway fulcrum point, where all the rings are overlapping on the previous smaller earthquakes. That's where the new earthquake, the new 7, just struck. And by the way, new viewers that were in here when this struck, you likely heard the sound of the alarm. We have a siren that plays when anything 7.0 and greater strikes. So this big earthquake did not cause any tsunami activity, which is good news, but it did put a few of the buoys into event mode. When they actually sense the earthquake itself, the buoy is moored to the sea floor, and we have buoys down here to the south. The plate boundary, let me show it to you here. The plate boundary goes down and around, and it kind of makes an S-shaped bend over into South Indonesia. We can show it to you better on the actual topography here, where it really does look almost like a letter S shape. So on the north side of here is where the big one struck, and we are back at 7.0 activity after at least a month or more of no 7.0 activity, and it's right in between our sets of deep fives. And it's the overlap point, like I said, where the other earthquakes overlap. Now that's not the only significant sized earthquake to strike in the past few days. We had two other, 6.8 strike down here at the Chile-Argentina border region. At the start of the week, we had a 6.8 earthquake strike right here where the 4.3s are. That's at the Mongolia-Russia border region. So we were already flirting around with upper 6 level activity, and the deep earthquakes continued to hammer off, thus prompting me to issue the big time warning, talking about watching for this to happen. Another sign that something was getting ready to happen yesterday was we had a new deep earthquake here where we don't have a letter D. This is at the Solomon Islands. It's much more rare to get deep earthquake activity in the middle here. Normally we get it on both sides of the plate boundary, but in the middle, that let us know something was coming up below the region. One final thing that tops it all off is that the previous 6.8s, the one up here in Mongolia, and the one all the way down here in South America, that the halfway point between those two were the deep earthquakes happening from Fiji over to the Solomon Islands. So if you're just now tuning in, about 4.5, maybe 5 hours ago. Let's get the actual time on this. Let's see, 12:23 UTC. Yeah, like 5 hours ago, because it's 1700 hours now. So 5 hours ago, this big one hit, like the end of the day over there overseas. So they're way far ahead of us time zone wise. If you live in the area, I will tell you, look, if you have a 7.0 earthquake and it strikes and it's the middle of the night, you're going to be scrambling and you need to have an emergency kit. You need to know what to do and where to go almost at immediate moment's notice when you live in these large prone earthquake zones. United States, we have other activity going on that's not nearly as significant, but it still fills in our middle points. We had a new 5 strike right down here, right in the Gulf of California, Baja California, Mexico. Additionally, new 2s and 3s going across the plate. In the past couple days, Texas got hit, which is just wild. Also, look back up into Colorado. Colorado got hit, and Montana got hit. Now, Montana, Colorado, Texas, all hit by exactly a 3.0 level. Look at the Craton edge. Goes through Montana, down through central Colorado, down through Texas. The whole Craton edge just moved on a 3.0 basis in a day. On the West Coast, 3s struck across LA, back up into Ridgecrest, back up into the coast or the border of California and Nevada. The coast of California out to the west-northwest the day before. Now, why does that matter? It's 3 of the same sized earthquakes going across California, 3.5s. Again, California-Nevada border, right down at Ridgecrest, and down to LA, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. And then on the edge of the Craton, 3.0, 3.0, 3.0. And then a 5 to the south, fulfilling our warned area to the south. South America also was struck by the same sized activity, 5.1 to 5.2, equally spaced, going from Panama, down across Ecuador, down into South Peru. How about that for equal spacing? But this big one, that's the story of the day so far. If anything else goes down, I'll jump back on at a moment's notice. Oh, we're not done yet with the big earthquake activity. We have new deep earthquakes that have hammered off in the past day. Here, 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 and here, at least. And you could arguably count in the 4.4 all the way over to the west, over at Afghanistan. So we still have something going on down below the plates. This 7 is just the first response, big-wise, on top of the 2 6.8s from earlier this week. This fulfills the forecast 100%. Looking for it to go back up to 7s, and now it's back at 7s. The signs were there. The bass drum was beating. Somebody turned up the bass. Also, look at Europe. Look at this equal spread of 4.0 range activity. We're looking at everything 3.0 and greater, but even the untrained eye should be able to see that Cyprus was hit. Going back over to Crete, or Rhodes was hit. Going back over next to Crete directly. Back up across into Montenegro, Albania, and then going up into Austria. And looking at the smaller earthquake activity, here's the 2s and so forth. So there's the microquakes. Doesn't really add much more to it. But how much more proof do you need? An equal spread of the same sized earthquakes, 4.0 range, going across all of Europe. You could incorporate in the mid-range 3s from a day ago. But if we get the 3s out of there, it really shows it. There it is. Oh, and by the way, the Greece-Albania border region right here, check it off the list. It was hit by the same size that struck just a few days ago up in Croatia. Let's get that on there. Hold on. There it is. And look, it's a 4.4 as well, marked in red. Right there. So how many 4.4s is that going to be? So the spread is pretty obvious. It's coming out of Turkey, going across Greece, going up into Croatia, and beyond now, up into Austria. But everything to the west, hush, hush. We don't have very much going on over in Italy and Africa, just a few small microquakes. Let's talk about this. Algeria. I would think Algeria is going to get hit here very soon. So we have to warn right down here on the plate boundary at North Africa as well. in addition to all the others that are going on. So going out around Romania, heading up towards the UK, that's the 3.6 and the 4s. Getting back to it, though, the big one, 7.0, striking in the middle of all of our hot activity in the West Pacific. Deep earthquakes coming in from down below the plate. Let me show you this, just in case you're new and you don't know what I'm talking about with the deep earthquakes. What I think's going on down in the magma, down below the plates, is this. Over hundreds of miles, maybe thousands of miles, VLF, or ultra-low frequency, down in the magma, causing a disturbance, and it focuses in on itself. The wave itself, physically focusing in on itself, can't compress down into the fluid of the magma, or any fluid, really. And so it hammers up in a spike or a singularity up into the underside of the plate. And then a spread starts to take place where the waves spread out from the deep earthquakes and combine. When they combine, they don't just get chaotic and jostling around in a tank. They actually combine and form into standing waves. I think that's what's going on here. Now, in the wave tank here in the laboratory, it's very uniform and smooth in the square tank, but we get back over here and you have to imagine the waves spreading out through the crooked edges of the plate boundaries here, marked in red. That this is the wave tank. These are the wave tanks. And the standing wave is contained inside of these as it spreads out and away from the deep earthquakes. And you pump more energy in, and guess what? All of a sudden you start getting spreads of bigger earthquakes. So does that mean we're going to have a spread of 7s? No, the 7 is the middle point between the deep earthquakes. Another way to look at this is the 7 is the middle part of the tank where both ends of the tank are pumping energy into the tank. This end is moving and this end is moving. And the waves that are pumped into the fluid in between combine and form a higher amplitude or become more powerful. And thus we get the big earthquake in the middle, fulcrum point, where the two sets of waves overlap or intersect or combine. And the waves combine. In standing waves, they combine and grow in height and power. They don't just pass through each other, they actually combine as a whole, which is amazing, really, if you think about it. Now, ultimately, this week is due to the deep earthquakes, but the deep earthquakes are ultimately due to something else, and that's activity coming up from the core of the Earth, solar activity that perturbs that, and now that the sun is starting to go back up in activity, we're going to start seeing more of this. Look, people are saying to me they think it's end times because of the earthquake activity right now. Well, where were you in 2011? Right? I mean, 2011 was way worse than we are going through right now. Bunch of 7s, 8s, and 9s. Yeah, I mean, come on. We're only dealing with 7s right now. So, 10 years ago, things were way worse. Why? Seismically speaking. Why? Well, the sun. There was M-class flares, X-class flares, large CMEs, filament bursts towards Earth, coronal holes, strong solar winds, charged particles hitting the Earth, earthquakes increase. When the sun starts to increase in activity facing the Earth, mainly, and that happened 10 years ago, same week that we had the big 9.0 earthquake, one of the biggest earthquakes in recorded history in Japan 10 years ago. Just a few days before, there was a large burst off the eastern limb, or no, the western limb of the sun. The right-hand side of the sun is the western limb of the sun. Anyway, huge burst right on the edge, and it sent a shock wave across the surface of the sun, and you could see it from SDO, so it's Earth-directed, or at least Earth-facing side of the sun. And then a few days after that, next thing you know, boom, Japan, 9.0 earthquake. So, moving forward in time now, it is now 11:11 a.m. on the 21st of January, 2021. 7.0 earthquake, fulfilling our forecast this week for 7.0 activity, and in the spot where we were watching, right in the middle of the whole area that's shifting. We're not done yet. It's going to spread out across the plates. I will get a new forecast together now in light of what's going on. We have to get a new forecast out for the rest of the planet. We're not done yet. Should increase a next step higher with the deep earthquakes that are going on now in the last day. We should either carry on with another 7 or something very close, 6.8, 6.9, 7.0, Or if any more deep earthquakes pump into this, we could actually see it even go up higher. Higher magnitudes than 7. Right now, I'll look for something in the upper 6 to near 7 to additionally pop off, spreading out and away from where the deep earthquakes are. Where does that put us? Well, spreading out and away from this point, there's only really 2 directions. One to the north, the other to the west. Now, to the west, we would look right in the middle of our open silent zone. That's Sumatra, Indonesia. Pretty basic. The plate boundary goes down, around, goes back into the S-shaped bend, back up to the 7.0 earthquake. Again, look at the plate boundary here. Hold on. It goes down, around, and over, and we would watch right in the middle in between our 2 other sets of earthquakes. Additionally, up to the north, you see there's a plate boundary that goes up into Taiwan, which then connects into Japan. So we have to watch up in Japan. And we watch between our current sets of earthquakes over the last 48 hours. So that puts South Japan right where the rings overlap, right out along the coast, north of Kyushu, south of Tokyo. Now that's not normally earthquake prone for large activity. We have to warn everybody for 200 miles in each direction, which pretty much puts Kyushu and Tokyo in the mix on either perimeter, but the middle is right here where the letter D is. And again, I can show it to you on the plate boundary here. Again, the middle point between our previous sets of earthquakes where they overlap on the plate boundary, right next to the letter H-shaped bend where the plate boundaries connect across. The magnitude should be in the upper 6 level, maybe even as high as 7, but I'll put it at upper 6. The chances of having the exact same sized earthquake are pretty slim. So the chance of having another exact 7.0 are pretty slim. I would think it would just be just a little less because the energy has to travel between the 2 areas. And I'm not seeing any other deep earthquakes right now, but that could change. If new deep earthquakes pump more energy into it, again, if we're looking at this as like the tank, and these are the 2 ends that are pumping energy into the tank, that if one end or both ends start to pump more energy in, the amplitude increases and the waves get bigger. And then they're equally spaced, and you get the same sized earthquakes dropped off all the way along the way. So let's hope nothing else pumps into the system. What else is going on? Let's hit refresh here because it looks like the European feed just bombed out for some reason. The European feed just took a dive. What the heck? Oh man, it's going to be one of these days. Oh, it's back now. There we go. There we go. It's back now. I guess they're just running slow. Did they just have an earthquake over in Europe? You know, the EMSC tends to crash when they have an earthquake reported out of Europe. The way to check, just go over to their site. It'll be scrolling across the top of their page on any one of their quakes, but I'm not seeing anything reported right now. Okay, I don't know what to make of that. It's just lagging, I guess. Maybe it is. Maybe there's just a lot of people interested in seismic today. Are you interested in seismic? I guess you are if you're here watching, right? If you like what I'm doing, you can subscribe, of course. Feel free to follow if you're on Twitch. Please think about supporting the operation over on Twitch. There's hundreds of people every hour of every day, 24 hours a day, or at least when my stream is running. They are over there talking earthquakes on Twitch, taking care of business, sharing information. Look, when this earthquake hit, I'm sure the chat room lit up. I was asleep. 6 a.m. my time? Yeah, I'm passed out. I was up till 5 a.m. I'm asleep for an hour. I'm in, oh, you know what? I just went into REM sleep, right? As soon as I go into REM sleep, all of a sudden, boom, big earthquake hits. Well, my viewers were already on top of it. They shared the information. I log in the morning and I see 1,000 messages to me on YouTube and Facebook and wherever, and they're telling me, 7.0 hit, we're sharing the info, please, where are you, Dutch? I'm like, oh, good morning, everyone. What? 7.0 earthquake? Holy crap. But, hey, we're watching for this. None of us are caught off guard. If you have been watching the updates over the last week, you're right there with me. You were waiting for the 7 point to pop off. Now that we know where it is, we can look and triangulate out from those locations. Word up, much love. People are like, no more sleep for Dutch? Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? It's really getting weird. It really is. Because either I leave the house and go out, like go shopping, go food shopping for the house. Next thing you know, I come back, I'm like, whoa, big earthquake hit. Whoa, that's weird. And that started to happen. And then I start going to bed, and then it's like, boom, big earthquake hits. Always like 1 hour after I go to bed. So weird. Starting to get a little freaky. But it's just chance. It's just chance. I don't have an earthquake machine. And no, I'm not Harry Potter. Okay. You know what Harry Potter said? You know what Harry Potter said about the earthquake? Expecto Petroleum. All right, we're out of here. You have a good afternoon, morning, evening. I'll be back if anything else goes down. Peace out.